Welcome to the Deep Dives. This is where you give us the source material, and, well, we dive into it. We try to find the most interesting stuff, the important insights. Basically, we do the digging so you get the key takeaways, maybe a few surprising bits, and hopefully keep it engaging. Today, the material you sent us is all about teaching, really the fundamentals of English for finding your way around, directions and places. Yeah, the source material, it really narrows in on the absolute must-haves. The keywords for movement, some really common places, and how to stick them together, plus some ideas for actually practicing it. Feels like a really focused way to learn how to navigate in English. I'm quite looking forward to digging into the thinking behind these basic building blocks. And with me, as always, is our expert guide.
Great to be here. Yeah, looking through this source, what really strikes me is how practical it is. It's not trying to be exhaustive, list every single preposition or type of shop. It seems very strategic. Just equipping a learner with, let's say, the essential language toolkit for navigation, how to tell someone where to go, where you might be going. It's language purely as a tool for, well, getting around.
Okay, great. So let's jump right in then. The source material starts with what it calls the core directional words. It really highlights left, right, and straight. Why start there? What's the logic?
Well, I think the source gets that physical movement, basically, involves either changing direction or not changing direction. Straight is just continuing on, the default, maybe.
Right. Keep going.
And left and right are the main ways you pivot, the main changes. So these three, they really represent the simplest vectors for describing basic movement relative to where you are. The source kind of frames straight as the easy one, no turn needed, while left and right are, opposites that need you to know which way is which. It feels like a deliberate choice to start with just the absolute mechanics of it.
That makes sense. And it's true, you actually can get pretty far with just those three. The source even gives pronunciations, simple definitions like and right is the opposite, like turn right after the store.
Yeah.
And straight is just keep going forward, go straight for 2 blocks. It's framing them as actual actions.
Exactly. It's not just vocabulary lists. It's words tied directly to action, to spatial awareness. And notice how the source avoids getting tangled up in more complex things straight away, like upstairs or towards, under, over. It really isolates the bare minimum you need for, let's say, navigating on the ground horizontally.
Right, keeps the focus tight. Okay, so you have movement, but you need somewhere to move to, destinations. The source then brings in some common places. It picks out 4. School, home, market, and park. Why these 4, do you think? What makes them the key ones?
That selection feels quite deliberate, almost like symbols for different parts of daily life. School could be learning, could be work for some. Home, well, that's fundamental. The base, where you return to. Market covers buying things, getting food, necessities, commerce. And park is leisure, public space, recreation. Taken together, they sort of cover the main zones of a typical daily routine for a lot of people. So learning those names immediately gives the learner words for common practical goals, where they need to go or where someone else might be. It's all about immediate usefulness.
I see that pattern now. Okay, so movement words and words for these sort of essential life locations. So I've got left, right, straight, and then school, home, market, park. How does the source then show putting them together to actually give directions?
Right. This is where it moves from just single words to functional language chunks. It shows how to create a sequence, right? A series of actions leading to a place. It uses examples like asking, how do I get to the market? And the answer strings together the movement and the place words. Go straight, turn right at the school, and the market is on your left. What that demonstrates is a really basic structure, action, then maybe a location marker or reference point.
Yeah, like building a little verbal map, step 1, step 2. The source has that other little dialogue too for finding the park. Go straight for 2 blocks, then turn left at the big tree. You'll see the park right there.
And that second example, that's interesting because it brings in something else the source mentions, landmarks.
Right.
Saying turn left at the big tree, that's often much more helpful than just turn left in 50 yards if you're not good with distances.
Or if you don't know the area.
Exactly. Landmarks give you these clear visual anchors, things you can actually see. So the source, quite smartly, I think, points out that using something easy to spot, a specific tree, a certain shop, maybe the big red building, it makes the directions feel much more real, much easier to follow. It's like a little pro tip based on how people actually find their way around, moving beyond just abstract instructions to using the environment itself.
That makes a lot of sense. It definitely feels like the source is building things up logically, single words, then combining them, then adding this layer of landmarks. So, okay, for someone learning this, how does the source suggest actually, making it stick? Does it talk about practice?
Oh, absolutely. The source really stresses that just understanding isn't enough.
Yeah.
You've got to actually use the language. It suggests active practice, things you can do. For instance, it prompts you, the listener, to sort of pause and picture someone asking for directions to your own home. And then try saying the directions out loud, using at least two of the direction words. Something like, okay, go straight for 3 blocks, then turn left at the library.
Okay, let me try. My place.
Okay.
Uh, Go straight past the bakery, then you need to turn right at the traffic light. Something like that.
Exactly like that, yes. And the source encourages doing that for the other places too, like the park or the market. Maybe pretending you're starting from a certain spot. Okay, to get to the park from here,
Yeah.
go straight, then turn right when you see the school. It emphasizes that actually saying it out loud, even if you're alone or maybe with a friend, that's what helps make those patterns feel natural.
Right. Gets it into muscle memory, almost.
Kind of. And mixing in the landmark idea makes the practice even better, more realistic. The main point is, consistent practice, applying it, that's what makes these basic blocks automatic when you actually need them in a real situation.
It's a very clear, systematic approach, breaking down this sometimes tricky task of giving directions into these smaller, manageable language pieces. Start simple, add layers like landmarks, and then practice. And well, that pretty much brings us toward the end of this deep dive into the source material on basic English directions and places. We've touched on the source's pick of core directions left, right, straight. Its choice of key places school, home, market, park. We looked at how it shows combining them and that useful point about using landmarks to make things clearer.
Yeah, and what I find particularly insightful from this source is how it really underscores that these words, which seem so simple, are actually the fundamental tools we use to, well, map out and navigate our physical world. These absolute basics of language empower us to actually interact with our surroundings,
Good.
to achieve practical things, whether it's finding a cafe or just getting home safely. They're foundational for reaching physical destinations. And thinking about how the source breaks down physical navigation into simple steps, it kind of prompts a further thought, doesn't it? If these basic linguistic building blocks help us chart a path through physical space, how do similar fundamental words and concepts in language maybe help us navigate more complex things, like navigating ideas, constructing arguments, or even just, finding our way through a difficult conversation?
That's a really interesting angle to consider, how the simple maps onto the complex. Well, thank you for bringing us the source material for this and for joining us on the deep dive. And if you found this useful or interesting, please do think about rating, reviewing, maybe subscribing to the deep dive wherever you listen. It genuinely helps other people find the show. Until our next deep dive, keep exploring.